Hey, what's up, everybody? So, all right, we better just hop right on into it. Video one. What if history isn't repeating itself? You know, how does a loop become a system? We've all heard the phrase, history repeats itself. But what if it actually doesn't? What if human beings keep repeating the same behavior that produced the history? Just a different century, different country, different people, different technology, but underneath it, the same patterns: fear, security, power, competition, resources, profit, control. And if that's true, then maybe the question isn't why does history keep repeating itself? Maybe the actual question is what loop did we never interrupt? So let's actually walk through history and see, because humans have already ran the experiment more than once. Now, what do I mean when I say, a loop? We're going to make this simple. Imagine two groups of people, right? You got group A. Group A says, I'm feeling some type of way. I feel a little threatened. We need to protect ourselves. All right, that's reasonable. For whatever reason, they feel threatened. We don't know why. For whatever reason, they feel threatened. They want protection. They increase their power. Now there's another group, Group B. Group B goes, well, hold on, wait a minute. What y'all doing over there? You're doing a lot. What you need all the weapons over there for? Why? What would you need? Whatever it is that why you building the wall? Why? What's going on over there? What y'all thinking? So now Group B, like, hold on, they getting stronger. Now Group B feels threatened. So Group B increases their power. Now Group A, like, see, I told y'all we need to get stronger. So now we need to protect ourselves. So now they increase their power. Now Group B responds again. Now everybody has more protection, but yet somehow everybody still feels less safe. That's a loop. Fear creates protection. Protection creates perceived threat. Perceived threat creates more protection, and more protection creates more fear. So you got fear, going to protection, perceived threat, more protection, more fear. And here's what's important. Nobody necessarily woke up in the morning saying, you know what? I'm just going to mess up everything today. I'm going to start every war. I'm going to pick with Group B. If it's Group B, I'm going to pick with Group A. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Each individual decision can make sense to the person making it. The problem becomes what those individual decisions create together. Now, let's let the loop run. And this is where things get interesting, because human beings don't make decisions in isolation. We have governments, economies, businesses, families, religions, cultures, militaries, communities, institutions, and so many more. All those systems contain incentives. So now imagine that participating in the loop starts rewarding you. Maybe you gain some more money, you gain some land, security, political influences, resources, social status, military advantage. Now getting out of the loop becomes that much harder, because we're no longer asking only, is this right? We're also asking, what happens to me if I stop? And that is where the loop can become a system. Humans have already, as we said, done the experiment. We're going to walk through several historical examples throughout this series, because it's going to be a series. We're going to talk about the transatlantic slave trade, the role of firearms and military composition in portions of the systems. We're the European expansion and indigenous displacement, uh, the Cold War, nuclear weapons, the military industrial complex. And eventually, we're going to bring this forward into modern technology and artificial intelligence. Now, these historical events are not identical. They're not. And I'm not saying that they are. There's different circumstances, different people, different motivations, different consequences. And I'm also not saying that one factor caused all of them. History doesn't work like that. What I'm asking is something different. Can completely different historical events contain similar underlying patterns of human behavior? Fear, security, competition, resources, incentives, power, justification, and then more power, and then the loop starts again. And here's why I also have to check myself, too, because I was sitting here and I was like, man, what am I going to name this video? Like, I want to get some sense of urgency because, I started thinking like, man, hold up. If I'm making a video criticizing the way fear can be used to influence human behavior, I can't turn around and title the videos, they don't want you to know this. Watch before they delete it. Bruh, I can't do it. That's the pot calling the kettle black. Because I'm just doing the same thing that I'm criticizing. And listen, I get it. I'm not calling y'all out. I'm not saying nothing. I get it. Trust me, I get it. We like a good clickbait. Ain't no wrong with a clickbait, and I like a good clickbait. You know, yeah, I get it. It's marketing. It's branding. I get why people do it. Fear gets attention. Drama gets attention. You hear music, and acting and things like that. Sex sells. Outrage gets attention. Urgency definitely gets it. And sometimes urgency is completely legitimate. Like, you can't know there's a fire in the house and you go to people and be like, hey, you know what, guys, when we have the opportunity, we might want to go ahead and leave up out of here and be all calm and cool and collected. Now, I get it on a professional, you have to be, but you got to be loud and assertive, but that's a whole nother thing. You going to be like, get your ass about the building. There's a fire. Oh, Lord have mercy. There's a fire. So fear definitely does have a purpose, but there's a difference between communicating a legitimate danger and manufacturing danger because I need your attention. And if I got to manipulate you to listen to a message about manipulation, then y'all, we already got a problem. So look, throughout the series, I'm gonna try to do something, slightly different. I'm going to give you the information. I'm going to show you the history. I'm going to tell you when something is an established fact. I'm going to tell you when I'm connecting those facts and giving you my interpretation of the pattern. And I'm going to ask questions. So feel free, go ahead, drop a comment. And you ain't got to agree with me. Actually, to be 100 legit honest, like, please don't blindly just be like, oh yeah, that person that is absolutely right. Look it up, challenge it, bring me information that I didn't even consider. Ask questions that make me reconsider something. That's how we all grow. Because I'm not trying to tell you what to think. I'm trying to create a place where we can get comfortable asking, okay, but why though? And that question isn't meant to be disrespectful or automatically rebellious. Being a smartass. It's simply, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're telling me. Now help me understand the principle underneath it. Because here's the question. If human beings have been dealing with a version of these patterns for hundreds or thousands of years, why do they keep showing up? Maybe saying history repeats itself lets us skip over something important. History isn't a creature. It doesn't wake up in the morning and decide to do anything. We do. People do. History is just what we call the record of what happened. So maybe history isn't repeating itself. Maybe human beings keep repeating some of the conditions that produce similar outcomes before. And if that's true, then simply knowing history isn't enough, because you can know what happened and still recreate the conditions that allow something similar to happen. So what keeps the loop alive? That's where we're going next. Because eventually a loop can begin rewarding the people participating in it. And once that happens, the question then changes to, it's no longer only why did people start doing this, but now we got to ask what kept rewarding people for continuing it. And that's where money enters the conversation. That's when security comes on in, weapons, land, politics, race, gender, technology. And eventually we're going to get all the way back to ourselves, because before we spend the entire time asking why are they doing that, we're going to have to be willing to ask, do I participate in smaller versions of the same pattern? Because if the method contradicts the message, we need to examine the method. This is the beginning of a series. Every video, we gonna number all the videos. You'll be able to watch individual videos on their own. You'll be able to reconnect one to another: history, economics, psychology, technology, spirituality, and just ordinary, plain old Jane human behavior. And I don't know how many videos this is gonna be. I can't say, hey, this is one of like 3 videos. I don't know, y'all. I really don't know. We're going to jump all the way down to the rabbit hole. But you know what? Underneath all of the videos, I already know the main question is going to be, okay, but why though? And with sincerity, but like, no, why? But why though? Okay, but why though? Like, maybe changing the way we think doesn't begin with having all of the answers. Maybe it begins with becoming less afraid of the questions.